You've been exclusively invited to this Freedom Workshop because you're passionate about using the latest methodology so your business can give you the freedom to do things your way, to work with who you want, when you want, and financial freedom. So I'm going to explain our definition of a successful business, a commercially profitable enterprise that can thrive without you, for you, your family, and your future. So let's get started with the training. I'm going to cover with you the 8 key drivers of value for the next half an hour. Then we have a very exclusive offer for you on how you can get yourself a valuation score. Aspiring to be the best for me led to my reading law at Cambridge University, mixing with the best of the best, then diverting into technology, taking Taser to become a household name in the UK in the hands of police officers, literally saving lives, and rolled out by the then Home Secretary Jackie Smith to police officers in every locality. I'll go into some detail later about how I applied many of the methodologies we're going to cover today and managed to create something valuable enough to sell and give me the freedom to now empower others to do the same. Now, the antithesis of freedom is being trapped. Imagine the bear with a foot in the trap, he can't move. If you've ever read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth, he spoke of the entrepreneurial seizure, where we start as the industry guru, doing all the sales, but employees love repetition and you can't train them to do or sell too many things. Therefore, you can't train them fast enough and the business becomes reliant on you. This phenomenon is called the owner's trap. Signs you've fallen into this trap: business slows when you're on holiday. Customers come to you with problems. Your growth has reached a plateau. Not only are businesses stuck in the owner's trap stressful to run, they're also worthless because nobody's going to buy a company dependent on its owner. And that's why the ultimate freedom is to own a valuable, sellable business that can thrive without you. You've got the ultimate poker hand in life. If your business is scalable because it's not dependent on you to deliver, it's also sellable, easier to pass down, or simply run as your company's chairman without having to be involved day to day. So we assess and improve the value of our clients' businesses so that you can gain freedom over your time and money and get back to the reasons you started business in the first place. We've worked with more than 50,000 businesses in the last 10 years, specifically measuring value, and discovered that there are 8 key drivers to a company's value. I'll explain later how you can get your own score, as I said, but today we're going to work through each driver. I'll explain why the drivers impact your company's value, and then we'll discuss how to improve your performance on each factor. So let's start with the first, of financial performance, the turnover, the profit, how solid the business is. Remember, the goal is to build a sellable business, not necessarily because you want to sell it, but because owning a sellable business gives you that ultimate freedom of owning an asset that can thrive without you. Now, after analyzing thousands of transactions, we can say definitively that financial buyers only buy one thing when they make an acquisition. They are buying your future stream of profits. I repeat, financial buyers are buying your future stream of profit. Therefore, as an owner, you have 2 big levers to pull on to drive up the value of your company. Firstly, how much profit your company will make in the future. And secondly, how reliable are your estimates? So let's take a look at how an acquirer will value your business one day, not because you're necessarily planning to sell, but because understanding the methodology an acquirer will use in the future allows you to drive up the value of your business today. So the acquirer will start by trying to estimate how much profit you'll make in the future, and then apply a rate of return they want in return for committing their capital. For example, imagine you have a business that's forecasting to earn £1 million in pre-tax profit next year, and a buyer comes along and wants a 15% return on their money. He or she would be willing to spend £869,000 today for the rights to £1 million a year from now. So we simply take the £1 million, divide it by 15% or 1.15, and that present value is often also referred to as a discounted cash flow. But that's not the end of the story, because in this hypothetical example, like most businesses, we expect to make a profit 2 years from now as well. So the buyer again values the second year of profit by applying their expectation for this 15% return. But now they have to wait 2 years for their money. And therefore the £1 million is divided by 1.15 twice. So you get 756,000. So a buyer is going to discount further for every year they have to wait to get their money. Now I'm using a rounded flatline profit figure for illustration here, but you can see that at £5 million, this is roughly 5 times annual earnings. And you'll often hear about companies being sold for 3 times, 4 times, 5 times EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So now you can see where that comes from. Again, the 2 levers you can manipulate to drive up the value of your business are, firstly, how much profit you make, and secondly, how reliable those estimates are. So focusing on the reliability, imagine a second business also projecting £1 million in pre-tax profits for the next 10 years. But in this case, the reliability of those estimates is shaky. Now, given how risky the future stream of profits are, the buyer has a very high expectation for a rate of return. Just like you and I, the riskier the investment, the higher return we expect. Now, when you apply a 50% discount to the future stream of profits, the business ends up being worth less than 2 times today's earnings. The reality is your business would likely get a discount rate somewhere between an overly optimistic 15% and an overly pessimistic 50%. And the rate will be determined by how risky the buyer deems your future stream of profits to be. So now I'm looking at paying more like 2 times profit. Now this maths doesn't need to worry us too much. An acquirer will no doubt do it in their boardroom while we're not even there. In fact, thinking of just a multiple of EBITDA is like comparing apples and pears. The reality is market conditions, the macroeconomy, interest rates often determine this really. So all we need to focus on is having profits that are reliable as possible. So take a piece of paper, calculate a rough estimate of what your business is worth today using this methodology. Estimate how much profit your company is going to make in the years ahead. 10 years out suffice for the exercise, and then apply a discount rate of 25%. So in the middle between that pessimistic and optimistic scenario. A second factor that drives your company's value is your potential to scale up and grow in the future. Scaling up requires you to isolate a small set of products or services to sell that meet the trifecta of scale: teachable, valuable, repeatable, TVR. Many business owners find themselves broadening the list of products and services they sell as customers ask. Selling lots of things to a few customers is a recipe for your business to become owner dependent, because you're likely the only person in the company with enough industry knowledge to successfully deliver such a broad product or service line. Now let's take a photography business in Banbury, Oxfordshire, who went through this exercise. They identified 3 main areas: weddings, pretty formulaic, albeit with some spontaneity, but otherwise pretty teachable. Now, when we say valuable, we mean, is it differentiated rather than a commoditized offering? So it's usually one of the must-haves for brides and grooms, but then unless you're Boris Johnson, they aren't particularly repeatable. Football teams, again, really teachable. Tall at the back, small at the front. Valuable? Well, probably, but most likely on price. How bothered are we about every team photo? School photos score well on all 3 attributes, however, because you can teach photographers how to shoot the formulaic school photo. Teachers and headmasters value the school photographer who can get children efficiently in and out of the hall, and the toys and jokes to get the results quickly. Remember, it's the school that hires the photographer and values getting the children back into classes quickly the most. And we as parents want the school photographs every year. So school photos score high on all 3 attributes, as you can do it every year. Most photographers run worthless businesses that are highly dependent on their owner, but the few that have gone through the scalability trifecta exercise have scaled up, like the school photography company in Banbury. All they do is school photographs, and they've scaled up because focusing on one offering has allowed them to teach employees to deliver a repeatable service which customers value, coming from the school photography company. Then scale up your business by focusing on the offerings in the top right corner of the chart. And as you work through this exercise for your own business, you'll probably find there's a natural tension between the 2 attributes of valuable and teachable. In other words, those attributes that are the least valuable are often the most teachable, whereas those that are the most teachable are the least valuable. That's normal, and the secret may be in bundling a number of less valuable offerings into a valuable bundle. Let's look at an example: an accountancy practice. The most teachable attributes are the least valuable, and there's nothing in the top right-hand corner of the graph. If this happens to you, ask yourself the question Darren Root asked himself. Darren runs a successful accounting practice in the state of Indiana over in the States. He did a little bit of merger and acquisition work or corporate finance work, highly valuable to his SME clients, but completely unteachable. Takes years, not something you can teach a bookkeeper. A little tech consulting, moving to the cloud, leveraging QuickBooks, Xero, ERPs, a little easier to teach and still pretty valuable. Audits, like most firms, relatively teachable, but less differentiated. Then payroll, cash book and reporting, pretty teachable, any bookkeeper could do. So pretty commoditized, although it was easy to teach. So he decided to focus his accounting practice on serving the needs of a niche. Professionals, doctors, architects. They place a high value on their time. So Root decided to bundle all of the teachable services into one bundle solution. While individually the attributes were of low value, when you bundle them, he allowed his customers to completely eliminate the need for back office staff and instead outsource the entire back office to Root's company. So he called the bundle BOSS, Back Office Support System. Imagine you're a doctor in an accountant office to process your payroll. That one service on its own probably not going to make you switch accountants because you still need to employ a bookkeeper to do the daily cash book and reconcile the bank. But when Darren Root's firm offers to take the entire back office function off your hands, that's a very different, much more valuable proposition. Look at the branding. So it was the bundling of the services that took the offering to this top right of our quadrant. So as you work through this exercise in your own business, consider bundling a set of services to get that ideal offering. Even with products, you think you're differentiated. Say you launch the iPhone, but then within a few months, there are touchscreen phones on the market looking very similar. Well, John Stanton, founder of the Running Room, he decided he needed to set his company apart as there were lots of shops that sell the same trainers, never mind online. So he decided to focus on offering running clinics in his store. He taught people how to run a 5K, then a 10K. Once they graduated from the 10K, he taught them how to run a half marathon, and then a marathon, and then qualify for Boston. These clinics were based on his experience as a runner. And as he scaled up his business and opened a second shop, he taught his managers how to run the clinics. His customers valued the advice, and once customers successfully ran a 5K, they were hooked and came back regularly for an ever more challenging clinic. Stanton has scaled up his teach, valuable and repeatable service wrapper, and now has more than 100 shops across North America. So if you own a product business, try to identify a service wrapper that can become your teachable, valuable, repeatable. So focus on your business. Take your main service lines, plot them on the extent to which they are A, teachable to employees, B, valuable to customers. That's the opposite of a commodity, i.e. it's differentiated. And finally, repeatable. Customers have to repurchase from you regularly. The next factor in creating a valuable business is called the Switzerland structure. The name comes from the country, which is obsessed by remaining independent. Didn't join the world wars, the UN or the Euro. So you too should be obsessed by making sure your business is independent of any one customer, employee or supplier. Think back to the value in acquirer and the discount for risk, and you start to appreciate the importance of this driver and more generally how important getting a rounded picture of value is. And I'll come to how you can get your complimentary score soon. From a customer perspective, your goal should be that no one customer makes up more than 15% of your revenue. Ideally, you should be able to switch any of your suppliers without significantly impacting your business. And oftentimes the hardest part of the Switzerland structure is to reduce your reliance on one or two key employees. So stack rank your employees from the most difficult to replace to the least difficult. Now make a list of the things you're doing to minimize your dependence on your most difficult to replace employees. Think of the most creative ways to keep employees loyal and engaged. This exercises employees, but the other two legs would be customers and suppliers. So feel free to do the same for those as well. The fourth attribute that drives your company's value and ultimately your freedom to do what you want with your business is called the valuation seesaw. It's named after the seesaw because just like the playground toy, the value of your business moves in the opposite direction of your cash flow needs. In other words, the more cash your business needs, the less it's worth. The opposite is also true. If your business generates cash as you grow, your business will be worth more to a buyer. The reason's simple. When a buyer acquires your business, they have to write two checks, one to you, the owner, and the second check to your business to fund its working capital. Accountants speak for money you need in the bank to pay your immediate obligations like salaries, rent, and payables. But the money to write these two checks comes from the same pocket. So the bigger the check the acquirer needs to write for working capital, the smaller the check you end up getting. Not only does improving your cash flow increase the value of your company, it also makes it less stressful to run. So think of ideas for getting customers' money sooner and for slowing down the speed with which you need to pay suppliers. Next, let's talk about recurring revenue. To reiterate a point we made when discussing financial performance, a buyer buys your future stream of profit. And therefore, the more reliable you can make your business model, the more valuable your company is. So let's take an example from the home security industry, although the same trends play out across almost any industry. Home security businesses have two forms of revenue. Installation revenue they get from coming to install the system in your home, and monitoring revenue they collect each month for ensuring they come to rescue in the event of a problem. The industry standard valuation for installation revenue is 75 pence for every £1 of installation revenue. So in our example, home security business generating £1 million in revenue, and all you do is installations, your company would be worth £750,000. Same £1 million with 100% monitoring revenue be worth £2 million, because acquirers pay £2 for every one of monitoring revenue. The monitoring business is 2.5 times more valuable than the installation business. What's more, recurring revenue allows you the peace of mind to sleep well at night, knowing your basic cash needs for the future are covered. So there are 6 forms of recurring revenue, and I'll walk you through them from the least desirable to the most. Costa runs a basic consumables business, the 6th most valuable form of recurring revenue. Caffeine is a drug most of us use every morning. Therefore, Costa can count on a lot of their customers returning to refuel every morning. Costa doesn't force their customers to return, but we're creatures of habit, and any consumables business benefits from that. Number 5 is sunk money consumable. Customers made an investment to do business with you. Staying on the coffee theme, Nespresso, good example of a sunk money consumables business. Once you buy an expensive Nespresso coffee maker, you're going to buy the Nespresso capsules that work with your machine. Number 4 on a list of recurring revenue models is subscription. Magazines are a good example of subscription revenue. When we subscribe to a magazine and the publisher can count on us as a customer for the next 1 to 2 years, you have a start and an end. Number 3 on the list of our 6 forms of recurring revenue is a sunk money subscription business, where the customer makes an investment to do business with you and then buys on subscription. Bloomberg Terminal would be a good example, where city traders buy the hardware and then buy a subscription to Bloomberg's market information. Number 2 is an auto renewal subscription, where there is no start and stop. We're all victims of inertia, and therefore when a subscription continues in perpetuity, we're unlikely to cancel. When you store documents with Iron Mountain, they will keep sending you a bill until you tell them to stop. The most valuable form of recurring revenue is a multi-year contract, where the customer is legally obliged to buy from you in the future. When Vodafone and the other mobile phone companies insist customers commit to 2-year data plans, it's because they know the value of the company goes up and down in lockstep with their subscription revenue. The 6th factor that drives your company's value is something we call the monopoly control. It refers to how well differentiated your product or service offering is. Warren Buffett looks for that deep and competitive moat. Your goal should be to find an attribute or benefit of your product that makes it unique in the market, that will give you more control over its pricing, which in turn gives you higher margins, which gives you more money for marketing, allowing you to further differentiate your offering, starting a virtuous cycle. So let's take the example of Panasonic's entry into the crowded laptop market. When they entered, established brands already owned the attributes customers cared about. Apple was seen as sexy, HP technically innovative, and Dell owned the benefits of buying direct in the customer's mind. So if you're Panasonic, all of the obvious market positions are already taken. If they tried to compete directly with any of the incumbents, their only weapon would have been a lower price, which would have led to lower margins. And they may have picked up some price sensitive customers, but as soon as one of the big incumbents matched their price, Panasonic would have been nudged out of the market. Instead, they ask themselves the two questions you need to ask in order to identify a marketing strategy. What do customers care most about? And how differentiating would that benefit be if we offered it? Now, most laptop buyers cared about the things Apple, Dell, and HP were offering, but there was a segment of the market that cared about something different. Police forces and military customers cared most about how ruggedized their laptop was. They wanted something that could stand up to the rigors of the inside of a police car or forward operating military theatre. Panasonic therefore launched the Toughbook brand. They made the toughest laptop on the market, which gave them a unique position in the market, and therefore they didn't have to compete on price, which gave them higher margins, leading to more money for marketing, their unique benefits, leading to further cementing the Toughbook brand as the choice for people who operate in a rough and tumble environment. So take a few minutes and plot the product services you offer on the extent to which they make you different and how much customers care. The attribute at the top right-hand side of the page, the product or service that offers the best opportunity to differentiate. If you market one product or service, plot all of the marketing messages you use to market that offering on the same X and Y axis. Now, not surprisingly, having satisfied customers is an important element of growing a valuable business. But having satisfied customers is actually not enough. Your goal should be to have customers who are not only happy, but also willing to repurchase and refer you to their friends. And that's a much higher bar to reach. Fred Reichheld discovered as a Bain consultant, career studying customers and the way companies measure their satisfaction. Early on, Reichheld discovered that there is virtually no relationship between a customer saying they are satisfied and the likelihood that they will either repurchase or refer you. Many customers would say they were happy and then purchase from a competitor the very next day. So Reichheld got to work combing through the numbers and discovered one question that was predictive of both repurchase and referral. On a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? Turned out the answer to that question was highly predictive of both referral and repurchase. Reichheld developed a standard measure to benchmark companies on willingness to recommend and become the industry standard satisfaction benchmark among virtually every top company, including the likes of Apple, FedEx, eBay, Amazon. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us? 9 or 10, they're a promoter. 7 or 8, passive. 0 to 6, a detractor. So your net promoter score, you simply take your promoters and take away your detractors. In this example, 20 less than 5 is 20%. And if that hypothetical example were real, you would be above average. A small handful of companies have achieved a net promoter score of at least 50%, which Reichheld defines as world-class. SatMatrix, a company that specializes in helping companies integrate the net promoter score methodology, has surveyed a number of companies and found the leading brands to be the likes of Samsung and Apple. Among all of the companies Reichheld and his colleagues at SatMatrix surveyed, he found the average NPS score was about 10 to 15%. So there are some world-class brands you can benchmark yourself against, including the likes of Amazon on the lower and Apple on the higher end. We can see vastly different scores. Knowing and tracking your NPS score is an important attribute of being sellable because it's forward-looking, predictive. It's a measurement of future success. And not surprisingly, many of the big acquirers, including both private equity and big strategic acquirers, analyze an acquisition target's NPS score before making an offer. So if you do want to sell your business one day, tracking NPS is a critical measure. Now, the final driver is arguably the most important. We call it hub and spoke, and it's the extent to which your business relies on you personally. For Switzerland, we looked at employees, customers, and suppliers, but here we look at the owner. The name comes from the airline industry's reliance on hub airports, which is a really efficient way to move planes around the globe until a hub like Heathrow gets snowed in, which is when the entire system breaks down. And likewise, a hub and spoke manager controls their business with decisions centralized at the hub. Remove the hub and the business is worthless, which is why companies reliant on their owner are either deeply discounted or worthless. More importantly, hub and spoke businesses are stressful to run because you can never take a break and all the decisions, even the most mundane, are brought to you. And this is where distinguishing between how profitable your business and how valuable your business is can come in handy. Some people use profitable and valuable interchangeably, but of course they're often in conflict with one another. Instead of hiring salespeople, the owner seeking to maximize her profits would do all of the selling herself. Instead of hiring a management team, the owner seeking profit would likely hire the lowest paid staff they can find to simply execute. While the profit seeker may maximize their profits, they would also grow a worthless business. So improving your score on hub and spoke is best handled through small steps. And you've probably already taken steps to minimize your company's reliance on you. But first, make a list of the things you've done in the last year to make your business less dependent on you personally. And then list 2 specific actions you could take in the next 90 days to make your business even less dependent on you personally. Most owners start their business for the freedom to build something on their terms. Most business owners fall short of this dream, become trapped in their business. The ultimate goal of any business owner seeking freedom should be to build a valuable, sellable business, because that gives you the best set of choices: scale, sell, pass down, or become a non-exec chairman. So as I mentioned earlier, I went through this journey. My business became very successful, a household name in the hands of police officers up and down the British Isles, with global brand name recognition like Hoover, a brand synonymous with what we did and still do. However, to make it more valuable, we shifted from a single product company to a solutions company, packaging together what might have been viewed as pretty commoditized offering, cameras, data storage, connectivity, and software, into a valuable bundle along the TVP model, with not just other hardware, but software on multi-year contracts, so recurring revenue, with folks from Dropbox and Facebook sitting on the board of directors, so applying many of the principles I've just been explaining. And having built that business, I was given the opportunity to sell and successfully negotiated that, which gave me that freedom from choices of living the life for my family and I want. And we spoke earlier about Net Promoter Score. We're thrilled that our clients consistently give us world-class ratings. Last year, we scored 78. And you may recall the likes of Apple and Samsung are in the mid-range. I'm pleased to have worked with and empowered businesses personally and with my team of coaches and mentors to scale their businesses to become more valuable. Building a commercially profitable enterprise that can thrive without you is something we at Action Coach do every day with tens of thousands of businesses, all following our 6 steps framework that starts with mastering the basics, like building a house with strong foundations, niching our sales and marketing, leveraging systems, ensuring we have a winning team, and create a synergistic business that delivers results. As you might expect, we leverage systems for the clients we work with for learning, planning, goal tracking, forecasting, and taking business to the next level. Clients we work with one-to-one, we guarantee a return on investment as additional profits, so that we can only work in this way with about 25% of the businesses we speak to. If what we've gone through today resonates, let's explore if you qualify. As I mentioned at the beginning, you'll want to claim your own detailed score report, and there are 2 ways I can offer you today. Firstly, go to birmingham.actioncoach.com/tools, and within about 10-15 minutes, you'll be able to secure your report sent straight through. Have your last 3 years financials to hand, and you'll get a financial value too. However, second link, g3.as.me/COD. We'll grab some time in my diary so we can complete it together, which is always a great way of getting to know each other a little. Filling in online forms on your own could be really lonely, but also making sure the interpretation on the questions and the answers can make a difference, of course, to what your report says. So if you're a business owner and want to know where the value is today, where the opportunities are, and some actionable strategies, this report is for you. So g3.as.me/cod, as in the fish, but no chips. We'll get you a gifted 20 minutes in my diary and a business valuation report. If you're not an owner, please pass on the link and start to think about how, as a leader in the business, you can start to add value using the methodologies we've been through today. So many thanks for completing today's workshop. I found these strategies invaluable in giving me to take away your actions from the exercises today. Good luck with your business and the challenges and opportunities you face. Book the call. I'm your coach on demand at g3.as.me/cod.